I reached Devil's Kettle just before sunset. The hike through the Minnesota forest had already felt strange for hours, not dangerous, just wrong. The deeper I walked into Judge C.R. Mangay State Park, the quieter everything became. At first there were birds, wind, the sound of water far away, but eventually even those sounds faded until all I could hear was my own footsteps crunching against the trail. And then I heard the waterfall, loud, violent, like something tearing through the forest ahead. When I finally reached the overlook, I understood why people feared this place. The river split into two waterfalls. One side crashed normally into the river below, but the other side disappeared into a giant black hole in the earth. No splash, no visible bottom. The water simply vanished, like the forest itself was swallowing it. I stood there staring into the hole longer than I should have. Something about it felt hypnotic, wrong in a way my brain couldn't explain. People online call it Devil's Kettle because nobody truly knows where the water goes. Scientists tried tracking it for years. Nothing worked. And standing there in person, I finally understood why. Looking into that hole didn't feel like looking into water. It felt like looking into absence, like something missing from reality itself. I climbed down closer to the rocks despite every instinct telling me not to. Mist from the falls covered the stones, making everything slippery. The roar of water became deafening, and that's when I noticed something strange. The closer I got to the kettle, the colder the air became. Not natural cold, heavy cold, the kind that settles into your chest. I pointed my flashlight into the black opening. The beam disappeared almost instantly. No reflection, no visible surface, just darkness swallowing light. Then I heard something impossible, a voice, deep inside the hole. At first I thought it was the waterfall distorting sound, but then I heard it again, faint, almost human, like someone whispering far below me. I froze completely. The voice didn't sound scared. It sounded calm, like it had been waiting there for a long time. Then the whisper became clearer. Don't look too long. My blood went cold instantly. I stepped back from the edge so fast I nearly slipped on the wet rocks. And that's when I noticed something moving beneath the water. Not inside the river, inside the darkness itself. A shape, tall, slowly rising toward the opening. The shape inside the darkness kept rising slowly. At first I thought it was just my imagination, mist, moving water, shadows twisting inside the hole, but then it moved again, deliberately, like something climbing upward from beneath the waterfall. I stepped farther back across the wet rocks, unable to stop staring into the kettle. The roar of water around me suddenly felt distant, muted, like the sound itself was being pulled downward into the hole. And then the whisper came again, closer this time. Too late. I felt every hair on my arm stand up instantly. The voice no longer sounded far away, it sounded directly beneath me. I aimed the flashlight downward again with shaking hands. The beam vanished into the blackness, but for one split second, something reflected the light back. Eyes. Two pale human-like eyes staring upward from impossible depth. My stomach dropped instantly. Then the entire hole moved, not the water, the darkness itself. Like something massive shifted beneath the surface. I stumbled backward and slipped against the rocks, barely catching myself before falling toward the edge. And that's when I noticed something horrifying. The water around the kettle wasn't flowing naturally anymore. Tiny objects inside the current, sticks, leaves, debris, weren't falling downward. They were circling, slowly rotating around the hole like they were being pulled by something underneath. Like the kettle wasn't draining water, it was feeding something. The shape below rose higher. Now I could see shoulders, long, pale limbs emerging through the darkness beneath the waterfall. Its body looked wrong, too thin, too stretched, like something human distorted by pressure deep underground. Then the creature opened its mouth, and the roar of the waterfall stopped completely, not faded, stopped. The entire forest felt silent instantly. No water, no wind, nothing. Just that thing staring upward at me from the hole. And then I heard dozens of whispers all around me at once, not from below anymore, from the forest itself. Look away. Don't let it see you. Run. I spun around toward the trees, and for one horrifying second, I saw people standing between them, tall, dark silhouettes scattered throughout the forest, completely motionless, watching the kettle, watching me. Some looked almost transparent. Others looked soaked completely black, like they had crawled out of deep water. Then the waterfall suddenly exploded back to life. The roar slammed into my ears so violently it made me dizzy. I turned back toward the kettle, and the pale figure was closer now, far too close. Its hands were gripping the rocks just beneath the edge, long fingers, too many joints, water pouring from its skin like it had been underwater for centuries. And then it smiled at me, not angrily, not hungrily, but knowingly, like it recognized me, like it had seen me before. Then one of its hands slowly reached upward toward the edge of the kettle, toward me. The creature's hand kept rising toward me slowly, calmly, like it already knew I couldn't move. Its fingers curled over the edge of the rocks just inches from my boots. The skin looked pale gray beneath the waterfall mist, bloated, almost transparent, and its fingers were far too long, too many joints bending in ways human hands shouldn't bend. I stumbled backward in panic, slipping hard against the wet stones. The moment I hit the ground, the whispers around the forest became screams, not loud screams, distant screams, like hundreds of voices echoing from deep underground. The shadow figures between the trees all turned toward me at once, every single one, and then the creature pulled itself higher out of the kettle. I finally saw its face clearly. God. I wish I hadn't. Its skin looked stretched tight over something unfinished beneath. Its eyes were completely white, no pupils, no blinking, and water poured endlessly from its mouth like the river itself was flowing through it. But the worst part was recognition. The moment it looked at me, I felt something impossible, like it knew who I was, not my name, not my face, something deeper, like it recognized me from somewhere before I was born. The creature opened its mouth wider, and suddenly I couldn't hear the waterfall anymore. Instead, I heard voices, human voices, dozens of them whispering from inside the creature's throat, some crying, some begging, some repeating the same sentence over and over. We never left. My entire body locked up. I couldn't breathe. Then I left something cold wrap around my ankle. I looked down and saw pale hands reaching out from the water around the rocks. Human hands, dozens of them, thin fingers gripping the stone, pulling upward, trying to climb out beside the creature that snapped me out of it. I kicked backward violently and scrambled up the rocks as fast as I could. Behind me, the screams became louder. The forest itself felt alive now. The trees creaked violently despite there being no wind. Branches twisted overhead like they were reaching toward the kettle. I ran blindly through the trail without looking back, but the farther I got from the waterfall, the stranger everything became. The forest no longer looked the same. The trail twisted unnaturally. Trees stood in places I didn't remember, and every few seconds I heard water behind me, not the waterfall, footsteps, wet footsteps following me, slow, patient. I finally saw the parking area through the trees and sprinted toward my truck, but before I reached it, I heard the whisper one final time directly behind me. Now you know where the water goes. I turned around instinctively, huge mistake. For a split second, I saw the pale creature standing impossibly far from the waterfall at the edge of the forest, completely motionless, water pouring endlessly from its body onto the ground beneath it, and surrounding it stood dozens of soaking wet shadow figures watching me silently. Then my truck headlights flickered on by themselves, and they were all gone. I drove out of Minnesota before sunrise. I didn't stop once, but even now, sometimes late at night, I hear dripping water inside my house, slow, steady, coming from rooms where there shouldn't be any water at all. And every single time I remembered the final thing the creator said to me, now you know where the water goes. Because deep down, I don't think Devil's Kettle is draining into the earth. I think something down there is drinking it.